My name is Iya Mystique Hargrove. I'm originally from a very small town in North Carolina. I went to school in Greensboro thinking I would be this, dynamic therapist. And in therapy, what kind of kind of led me in a sense of it started off with school, then it started with therapy, showing the signs that where I thought I was going, it's not where I was headed. So, like for instance, I my first um, major literature, assignment. My instructor, my English professor, was like, "You need to write about birth work. You need to write about reproductive justice in America for Black people." And I didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to what? I'm trying to be a therapist, but that was the first sign. And then when I got into the community as a licensed therapist in North Carolina, majority of my caseload were pregnant folks from all backgrounds. But they mainly came from no to low income, communities. A lot of folks who are in the LGBTQI plus community. So I was like, that was my jam. Okay, I'm going to start a community. They're dealing with postpartum, they're dealing with pregnancy, they're dealing with reproductive justice, health issues, whatever. Didn't think anything of it. So the third biggest sign was, unfortunately, my own personal experience, that I had like a great pregnancy, beautiful pregnancy, despite the barriers I was facing. Healthy pregnancy, however, when it came down to giving birth, very traumatic childbirth, very traumatic postpartum recovery, to the point it took me like 2 to 2.5 years to completely heal and be like over and done with letting go of the traumatic childbirth and postpartum issues. So, it was linked into the reproductive justice world and pregnancy world and childbirth and all that, that kind of guided me to where I'm at now. So I'm a certified full spectrum doula. I wear a lot of hats. Full spectrum doula, certified as a lactation specialist, certified as a lactation educator, childbirth educator. I'm a death doula. I'm a pathway 3 IBCLC mentee. I feel like I'm missing. Oh, I'm a certified maternal and child health community worker. I just say I'm a birth worker in general. I call myself a unicorn in a sense because what the things that I'm passionate about, the things I align with, are very different from the normal or usual focus topics in birth work in general. And so, definitely, if you don't know, queer, femme, non-binary. That's why I call myself a unicorn, because it's very fluid. I've always had this fascination with unicorns when I was little. So, so yeah, what led me into my studies of midwifery. I grew up. Both of my grandmothers were pretty much midwives. My abuelita, she was not the traditional, not the licensed type of midwife, but she was the midwife of death. She was a midwife of healing. She was a midwife of postpartum healing, pregnancy. And then my other side, my grandmother, my father's side, she was the actual nurse midwife. She was part of being one of the Black grand midwives who unfortunately had to be forced to be licensed and trained by white doctors and white nurses who came in and kind of pretty much infiltrated the Black community. And she was in a sense of playing chess, not checkers, because she still wanted to help her community. So I know the stories of her birthing babies, and my abuelito on my mother's side birthing, babies and help bringing life into this world. So that was my, one of my signs of just kind of nudging me in that area. So when it comes to the importance of discussing gender identities and discussing, intersectional identities regarding Black perinatal health, the importance is because we are still neglected. My community is still neglected. We have the stats. I call it as I'll say as dark as it seems, but let's be real. The statistics are very dark when it comes to Black people having births and or giving birth or trying to conceive or what have you. I call it the hit list. We are on the top of the hit list, and us being on the top of, being 3 to, the numbers vary. Sometimes it's 3 to 4. I'm seeing 4 to 5. I believe it's definitely 4 to 5 with recent events that are happening. 4 to 5 times more likely to die during pregnancy, during childbirth, after childbirth, during postpartum, compared to white individuals, pregnant, childbirth, otherwise. And the fact is, a lot of times these statistics are biased and the data is manipulated because a lot of folks don't understand that Black people, in a sense, we have various identities. We have various identities that are intersectional to us, so it's not applied to all or one size fits all. A lot of times we are seeing in honesty, there's a lack of representation of data showing actual Black, queer, and trans people suffering from perinatal mortality, or our infants dealing with mortality. It's just grouped all together. The process of, and I think a lot of folks don't understand the process of research and the behind the scenes of gathering this data and collecting it and analyzing it, measuring it, and all that stuff, because they are only showing cisgendered numbers. They're showing numbers from cisgendered women, but in a sense of they're not even asking if, they're not separating. If, people want to say, oh, we're just all the same. We're not. There is a divide in the Black community when it comes to queer and trans rights, and other marginalized identities, such as being disabled and being a single parent, no income, low education, things of that nature. So a lot of that data is not telling the whole story. I'm a huge fan, and that's part of our culture. We're big on storytelling. This data is not telling our whole story. It's not showing the big picture. It's giving bits and pieces and saying this is what it is, when it's so much more. So the importance of it is it's all about being inclusive. If you want to be inclusive, we have to, create inclusive research. We have to capture everybody's story, everybody's experience, lifestyles, whatever, without having to discriminate or neglect, those who are pretty much more oppressed and less privileged in the Black community. The main considerations for non-Black and or non-queer midwives when they are providing services to Black, queer, and trans people is really to take a step back and remove your ego. There is a lot of ego in this work, especially if you have high status, you've been established in this work, and this is not taking it away from you. But a lot of people, they get real stuck in that ego mindset of, I know what I know. I've been doing this for over 20 years, over 10 years. I'm not going to change how I do, but that they don't understand that's still harmful. And just taking a step back to remove your ego, to be open and sit and listen to us. That's a big thing. Just listen. We may be the experts. We went to school. We have all this knowledge. However, the client, that person that's sitting right in front of you, they are the expert of themselves or their needs. So like taking that into consideration and just dropping the hierarchy. It's a lot of hierarchy, and that's tied in with ego. So there's a saying, I recently saw that if you're my ally, and there's rocks being thrown at me, those same rocks being thrown at me should also hit you. Like that means you should stand by me or in front of me, use your platform, use your privilege. You have a voice, not be scared to stand up for us, not be scared to be afraid. Well, if I speak out about all Black lives matter, including Black, queer, and trans lives, I'm afraid that I'll lose business. I'm afraid that I'm gonna lose support. And that's another thing that's harmful. Is so I'm me, and you're not even thinking about one of the most marginalized and oppressed communities that are trying to survive. We're literally trying to survive a day without dying in fear, and just stepping in our shoes to realize that this is like what is happening now with the many laws, the many outrageous laws that are being passed one by one. Just imagine that you are that person whose rights every day are being taken away. With the blink of an eye, it's just rights. It's like a rotten fruit just thrown in the trash. Like that's how people view us and view our living and our lifestyle, and not wanting us to be free and express ourselves and raise a family or even have a family in a sense. So just taking into consideration to literally step back, remove ego. That's going to be a hard thing to do, but it takes work. To listen to us, let us take lead, listen to us, and also invite us into spaces, not just necessarily to talk about queer and trans stuff, but invite us into spaces to talk about lactation, midwifery, whatever, talk about healthcare, access, food security, things of that nature, because it affects us too, and it affects us differently. Challenges I face as a Black queer person in the, I'll say, midwifery community and medical community in general, it's accepting, being in a space where space is created to make me feel safe. Space is created to make me feel supported, make me feel loved and empowered. And a lot of those spaces are not available. They are not open. It's kind of, especially in the Black community, in the Black birth working spaces, medical field, it's literally, it's like you have to choose either you're queer or Black, and that's not how that works. That goes into, again, intersectional identities. Like I have a multiple intersectional identities. I'm Black, I'm queer, I am a parent, I am a child of a great liberated fighting Black mama. I have Caribbean indigenous roots. I have been a survivor. I don't like to say victim. I've been a victim, survivor of sexual assault and assault. Like I have all these identities, all these experiences that I can't separate. These are, as I call, pieces to my puzzle, what creates me, what makes me me. And stepping into certain spaces, I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel safe. It's very frustrating in a sense of when I'm speaking about my experience or the experiences of my clients, my community, my kindred. It's as if it's either pushed aside, it's not believed, or it's not taken seriously. It's like, okay, thank you for sharing, and that's it. That's on top of financial barriers. So that is a huge thing, and that's not just me. That's everybody I consider who is Black and marginalized and have multiple, intersectional identities. But financial wise, I'm seeing and I'm hearing a lot of stories of Black, queer, and trans folks who want to go into midwifery, who had that passion. I can tell you, if I blink tomorrow and they take the test from NARM, they would, excel and be great in this world and in the community. But so many barriers come into play: childcare, lack of transportation, no support. You're dealing with, mental health issues of being misgendered, or dealing with issues of being discriminated, being, neglected. All these things come up. Trauma, generational trauma. It's a it's a lot. But midwifery is hard as it is, but it shouldn't be this way as far as becoming one, to the point that once you are licensed, and I hear this from a lot of Black midwives, that once you're licensed, it's like you don't want to do a birth, because how it's set up as far as, clinicals is first year of school, and you have to like balance life and family and your health and your self-care, to the point you're burnt out by the time you get licensed. My perspective as both a patient and provider has definitely affected like the work that I do. Like I come from, and I think many of us do, we, as far as if you're, Black or person of color and you're trying to do midwifery, you're trying to study midwifery. My story is like, I've been on both sides. I've personally dealt with, unfortunately, a very traumatic birth, a birth that was to the point that both me and my child, who is now 8, and he thinks he's Batman now, but who both me and my child, we almost lost our lives. I came in Black, queer, they knew it. I'm on Medicaid, so I'm dealing with a rotating, type of provider. And the midwife I wanted she had so much knowledge about, the queer and trans community and multicultural identities and things of that nature. We literally created a birth plan for me. And unfortunately, I didn't get the midwife that I wanted. I really wanted to go into labor that week, but the following week I went into labor. During the week, a midwife who was responsible for the traumatic childbirth of me and my son. And I didn't like her during the first visit, because she was asking very personal questions. I kept, I was telling her my, pretty much my story. She's asking, where's the baby daddy? Where's the father of the child? And unfortunately, this was also a Black midwife. So that's when I talked about earlier how there is a divide in the Black community when it comes to queer and trans people. It's like we either don't exist, or if we do exist, it irks a lot of people and it disgusts them because it's such a sin and whatever. That's another rabbit hole to go down. But, I'm telling her like, I'm having this baby by myself. I'm a single parent. I'm telling her my pronouns. I'm telling her all these, personal, vulnerable details of my life myself, so she can get a better idea of who she's serving. And it was like I was talking to a brick wall, and I did not like it. She was very rude, very nasty. So I I told the front desk, I don't want to ever be on her rotation at all. Well, fast forward, got into labor, had her as my midwife. And in a sense, I look back now, before I was like, why did that happen to me? But in a sense, I look back now, I'm like, it unfortunately had to happen to me to push me to where I'm at now, to push me into the work that I do and how I'm involved. But it went from a great, labor, I'm handling the contractions, to she just sabotaged my whole birth plan. And a lot of folks don't understand that when it comes to hospital births, it's still happening. But back 8, 9 years ago, it was horrible. I'm stuck to the bed. They won't let me walk. They won't let me move. I can't, my mother's confused because she's like, why can't my daughter walk? What is happening? So my story, my experience on the patient side, and then literally seeing it on the provider side, it blends in together, and it supports each other, good and bad and awful. But it affects my work. It affects what I do. It affects my advocacy, my voice. That has pushed me to be loud and be bold about my experience and experiences of my community. Never silence myself like I was before back in the day. And just be comfortable in it. And a lot of folks are uncomfortable with me being this spicy. I call myself like the spicy rainbow, spicy unicorn. But they're uncomfortable seeing that spiciness or being confronted with that spiciness because it's a hard truth for them to actually digest and take in, to be like, oh, I might be problematic. And it ties in with that ego. So my experience of being both a patient and provider has had like a tremendous impact in my work. I feel like, in a sense, that the Black perinatal health system, it's telling again, going back to the story, but it's telling the story that this system is broken. It's been broken. It's in shambles. Literally, those who are in the fight or in the streets, as we say, literally in the streets, in the community, we are trying so hard to pick up the rubble, the shit, like to bring it back together or even clear it out so we can rebuild. And that's what really needs to happen. The things that are broken, let it be broken, swept away. We have to rebuild it. We have to bring back and be comfortable, be proud, and be happy and embrace the ancestral knowledge, the ancestral experiences. We have to bring that back into our work. A lot of this, and of our paths and our journeys as student midwives, as midwives, it's connected. It's all connected. It's aligned to what our ancestors did back in the day. And we have to rebuild this system. The system is broken. Everybody's trying to fix it. My honest opinion is, stop trying to fix it. Stop trying to fix what is broken and build something new. Because it's like, I think of, when you get the refurbished phones and computers, refurbished technologies, in the end, it's going to break down again. And you got to fix it all over again. And you're trying to do the same thing. And every time you just try to do the same thing over and over, it seems to get worse and worse, and nothing is working. And that's why I'm like, stop trying to fix what's broken, sweep it away, let it go, start the healing. That's where we need to start. Start healing, start rebuilding, start putting in new pieces into play. Start bringing in what our ancestors did. I really feel like if we took a step back and saw that the many great midwives who are now our ancestors, the Black brand midwives who birthed thousands of babies without anyone passing away, without anybody having health issues. The babies are healthy. They're growing up big and strong, healthy and excited. The parents, the mothers, they're healthy. They're feeling strong. They're feeling supported. They're feeling loved. They're embracing themselves. They're not feeling like, I don't feel beautiful. Like, if we can take a step back and say, what did they do, and apply it, I really feel in my heart that this work would be a whole lot better. We're trying to apply practices that don't apply to our communities, that don't apply to our lifestyles and our experiences. And we keep wondering, why is nothing working? Why is this, why are we still having Black folks dying at alarming rates? We can fix the system all we want, but it's the people that created the system. And until the people are fixed, it's still going to continue to break. It's still going to continue to not work. And we're still going to suffer instead of thriving. So I think Audre Lorde has a quote, I put it in my email signature, that says, liberation cannot begin without community, and that's real, that's true. Change cannot be created, and transformation cannot happen without community. So I'm really hoping that the Black perinatal health system will get a very mindful reality check on checking the system that's broken and stop using that system, and create a newer system that is, bigger and better, and just bringing in that ancestral knowledge into the system instead of trying to apply it with a practice that continues to show us it's not working.